Dr. Jonas Salk developed the first polio vaccine, and he once said that it's very wise to be a good citizen, but the real challenge is to be a good ancestor. And he hoped his vaccine would contribute to that because it would be used by children for generations to come. I like to think of children born 300 years from now, 400 years from now, having given us their proxy vote, and they're asking us to please make the right decisions. So if we see them looking over our shoulder every day as we make decisions, we will make the right decisions to be good ancestors.
We have been shaping and reshaping our planet, the only home humans have ever known, for thousands of years. About this tiny spaceship called Earth, we have explored, invented, and conquered. Humankind has faced incredible odds, and we've also created many of our own new problems. Now that our societies are maturing, albeit imperfectly, how do we start to think about solving more problems than we create? What are the next threats our planet faces? How do we set our next goals if we want to change the world? And for those of us who strive to be problem solvers in our world today, how do we do it? I'm Zainab Salbi, founder of Women for Women International. Like many of you, I've been driven in my life to try and solve some of the world's big challenges. I am deeply passionate about fixing the things I see that are broken in our world. And I've asked myself, how can we do this problem-solving and world-changing work purposefully, consistently, and most importantly, do it successfully? We have to figure this out if humans are going to survive. In the words of Jonas Salk, who developed the first vaccine for polio, it is relevant and even part of wisdom to ask not only are we being good citizens of the world today, but are we being good ancestors? Salk was asking a very important question. What can we do so that future citizens of the world will judge us to have left this world in better shape than we found it? I'd like to invite you to join me for this virtual learning mini-series, Becoming Better Ancestors, as we talk with some of the great minds of our time, working to improve the world today. Digging into the specific experiences of public health leaders with smallpox and other major global threats, we'll ask hard questions and explore what we call 9 lessons from global health to change the world. I also encourage you to explore and contribute to 9lessons.org throughout your journey to becoming better ancestors, and as you go on to create positive change in our world, to share your experience and wisdom with others. So let's get started. While we are filming this series, we are living in the middle of one of the worst pandemics in modern history. We have lost millions of lives. Still more will have lasting complications from COVID-19. We should have done this better. We certainly knew better. That's one of the major reasons why we are filming this series. And there are still more global threats on the horizon. I'm speaking to many preeminent scientists and activists from around the world. I want to know more about challenges we humans really face, and I want you to really think about what we are up against. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So what are the serious threats facing humanity in the coming decades?
Boy, there are a lot of them. But I've just seen the rollout of COVID vaccines in the United States, which has been an amazing accomplishment to have vaccines made by the billions and to have so many people refusing to take vaccines. We have to be able to inform them better, and we have to be able to stop the disinformation, which has been so difficult to deal with.
One is that we currently pay people to destroy the planet. So for example, if you go out and you cut down a rainforest, what do? Do we take that person and throw them in jail? Do we say that you're being charged with crimes against the planet and crimes against humanity? No, we give that person a lot of money for doing it. We have a financial system that encourages degrading the planet. So I believe that we need to develop alternative systems that allow people to make good livelihoods without destroying the planet.
I am haunted when I go out to villages in rural Africa and see the little kids running around and sometimes not having a school to go to. We have no way of predicting what's in those little heads. I know, for example, a young man who grew up in a tiny village in Mali became an astrophysicist out at Pasadena, was one of the people who helped guide one of those Mars rovers. I recall another young man grew up in northern Nigeria, became an engineer at General Motors, and designed the exterior of the Chevrolet Volt. I just think of how much humankind is losing when children under those circumstances are unable to physically thrive, but then also become educated. It's important to understand that it's in all of our interests that those children be able to thrive everywhere.
The fact that we've seen some particular businesses and billionaires getting richer by the billions during the pandemic and being able to take trips to outer space while the pandemic has had this devastating economic impact that is going to go on for some years in Africa, which is going to have an impact then on individuals, on families, and on countries. One of the things that must come out of this experience and is what is happening now to try to transcend these barriers to working together in solidarity with a really practical approach to equity and caring for each other, understanding that we, to a large degree, share the same fate by being on this earth together.
It's very hard to pick one threat that we face, but there's one that strikes me and I'm impressed by it every single day, and it's a failure to collaborate. It's a failure to come together. It's a failure to listen to the other side. It's a failure to try and understand what the other side is saying, what the other side wants, what the other side has experienced. And it leads to an obstacle, to a barrier to moving forward, whether it's a barrier for people to get immunized, a barrier for kids wearing masks in school. It's a barrier we can surmount, but it has to begin with a willingness to listen to other people.
What do you think, from your experience, is the single greatest threat we will face in the next 50 years?
Well, I think the biggest threat that we're facing over the next 50 years is climate change and the impact that it will have on our environment. So if you think about not just changing weather patterns, but the impact that it can have on our water resources, our food resources, I think that it can also end up making places uninhabitable. Maybe we won't have enough food or resources because now regions that we've been able to grow food in, we can't grow it anymore. So we have to look at these problems and get some of the brightest minds working on them very quickly so that we can secure our future here on this planet.
You know, I don't think this is the last pandemic that we will be facing. There's the constant threat of cluster of cases, of outbreaks that have the potential to become pandemics if they are not detected early enough and managed appropriately. So what we really need is to augment the field epidemiology capacity to be able to detect, investigate, and prevent future pandemics. And I think this is the single biggest threat that we will face in the next 50 years.
After the Second World War, the public saw the skeletons come out of Auschwitz, the firebombing of Dresden, the mushroom clouds over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. A line had been crossed, and people said, we never want that again. And individually and as nations, we each gave up a little tiny bit of our sovereignty. And all of a sudden, there was this profusion of an alphabet soup of the United Nations Security Council, WHO, UNICEF, UNESCO, the World Bank. These organizations that were birthed out of the horror of the Second World War were the glue that has kept our society, our world together for 70 years with no more wars like that. My biggest fear is that the organizations are long in the tooth, is that people have grown weary of giving up a little bit of their sovereignty, that we don't remember how horrible it can be if war began again, and that individual liberty, freedom, selfishness, materialism, all of those things have overrun the idea that we're all in it together. That's the biggest threat to me.
This is important to me because I'm a grandfather, and I think in terms of what my grandchildren's grandchildren will be thinking. One of the real problems is the problem of fatalism, the belief that you cannot change your future. And this is why it's so hard for some people, for instance, to give up smoking. They don't actually think they can change their future. It's one of the most important lessons we can teach young children. You can change what happens in the future.
I want to thank you all, but I also may not sleep tonight. One more question. Do these threats seem to be a mandate to be good ancestors, to become better ancestors in the human race?
I think we can become better ancestors by making sure that we can have a continual corporate memory of what we've been through and how we can make things better in the future, and let our position as ancestors be able to give to the people following us the benefit of our experience. And I think that's the way a good grandfather and grandmother imparts upon their grandchildren the wisdom that they have over the years. What went wrong, what went right, and I think that's our responsibility. So I like that terminology, good ancestors.
Thank you, Dr. Fauci. Thank you, everyone. So it's big. The stakes are high to become better ancestors. Where do we even begin? In 1980, the World Health Organization declared the world free from smallpox. For the first time in history, a human infectious disease had been eradicated. This was a monumental achievement. Smallpox killed a third of those it infected, resulting in the death and disfigurement of hundreds of millions of people. After decades of efforts by hundreds of thousands of public health and government workers, as well as significant international financing and cooperation, the fight was finally over. So how did we do it? How do we eradicate smallpox? How did we wipe this horrible disease from our planet? That's exactly what this series is about. The scientists, doctors, and advocates who have led us through one of the deadliest diseases ever to plague humankind have something important to teach us.